Welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host, on hearing that Clinton Morrison was doing summary for Sky, he made a call. All right, Clint, can't wait to see you banging them in today. And this time, them isn't goals, but it's your witty and incisive comments. Dr. Luke Gledall, how are you doing today, Luke?
I'm very good. How about you? I feel bad that I also missed, thank you for the intro. I feel bad that I kind of missed our mid-centennial episode with a intro for you. So I've made a very pithy intro for you as well, Rich.
Oh, please. Thank you.
Okay, so from the top, welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Dr. Luke Gledall, and joining me as ever is my co-host. He's found a place where we can boogie. That's right. He's the male Princess Leia of the Rebel Alliance of secretive shape throwing. It's Mr. Richard Miller.
Lovely stuff.
I just thought that I like the mentality of just bringing up really stupid old songs that I can kind of reference. It's kind of fun. And I really enjoyed that one. You know, that was that mid-noughties dance hit, which just the lyrics were just absolute nonsense. I found a place where we can boogie tonight.
Yeah.
Like it sounding like it's some kind of Handmaid's Tales of dancing. But really, you can just dance anywhere, really, if you're so inclined. And there are actually places that actually did used to be legitimate businesses called nightclubs.
What?
And I think they were pretty commonplace in people's front and center of their brain. So, yeah, fun times.
Is there any point in a socially distant nightclub?
I don't know. Did you see the thing about, like, somebody had invented these suits you can wear, and that you go and you rent a suit, and it's kind of like you wear, like, a space suit?
Okay.
And there's like a special slot to get. You have a special slot for vaping.
Oh right, okay.
Of course,
my mind went somewhere else. Sorry.
There's a slot for your vape, and it just looked ridiculous. But you know, it probably cut up some minutes in whatever TV news show covered that one.
What was there was a kids program I used to really quite like, which was all the wacky, this is probably sort of slightly racist now really, but all the wacky sort of Japanese inventions, you know, like umbrella hats and things like that. I can't remember what it was called.
It'll Never Work? It'll Never Work, yes.
It was an absolute treat. I loved that show.
It's just a bit, let's just laugh at the Japanese, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
They're all a bit silly, aren't they? We can just have a bit of a giggle.
And we're still doing that. Like a month or so ago, there was a Paul Hollywood Goes to Japan sort of track show, and it essentially was just a slightly better shot version of It'll Never Work. Just him going around going like, "This truffle costs £1,000. Isn't that wacky in Japanese?"
I heard about this because it's actually like I play this game Dominion online with my brother, and we do that, and we'll have like a little chat over Zoom while we do it.
Oh yeah.
And he was watching it in the front room, and it was an episode where I think he was on the trains and saying how great the train cuisine is better than, you know, the sandwiches you get on British trains, blah 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 blah. And then he tried tofu and he didn't like it. And me and my brother Andy were just pissing ourselves, going, "What a pleb! He doesn't like tofu. What a pleb!" I'm saying anyone doesn't like tofu, but I think if you're also someone in that regard, you must have had tofu before, and then I would have thought that you'd kind of like tofu as well, you know? I don't know.
There's still a surprising amount of people that like have never had curry and things like that in the UK.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean now it starts to feel like you're making a point, but it still is. Yeah, it still is sort of odd. There's definitely pockets of people that still lead an incredibly sheltered sort of culinary life. Or if they've had curry, it normally has raisins in. You know, that kind of like school dinner.
Or the curry sauce from the chip shop.
Yeah, that's a good
chippy curry sauce.
Chippy curry sauce. Well, I think there's a fair bit of current affairs to catch up on, so we should get ourselves on that.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
Absolutely drowning in hoo-hoos this week.
Just hoo-hoos and no non-hoo-hoos in sight, I guess.
Exactly, yes. So I suppose the first big thing is we've had some clarification on the contract side of things.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we're going to build up to this, but we can get right into this as well. I've made a lot of notes about this. So, I mean, the interesting thing was the data that landed. I think I was on Facebook at the time, and it dropped. What is it? It was about a 5 p.m. ish or something around that time. It was around that time of the day.
Yeah.
In your neck of the woods in the UK, and the thing just came through, so I sent it you pretty quickly, and then I clicked on the page to open it, that kind of club statement, and I went to get a glass of water because I needed to brace myself.
Wow. Handily, that was what the first line of the story was. Guys, sit down, have a glass of water, you're going to need it.
For comfort and potential spit takes.
Yes, multiple spit takes. Yeah. So what was your, obviously the big news, the biggest chunk of news, Paul Jones.
Paul Jones, yeah.
Here through July.
How could we not talk about Paul Jones, someone who's had such a multiple effect on all of our lives, really?
I've heard him called, and I think it's churlish to go against such popular opinion, the king of the dressing room. He's the guy, he's making things click.
KODR.
Yeah. No, I suppose that's just surprising in that we felt the need to lock down our third choice goalkeeper, I guess.
Well, that's the funny thing. I think we naturally think that Kieran Westwood's our third choice goalkeeper, but he's seemingly in no man's land, right?
He's got that gaping wound.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, he's got the face saving injury, right?
Yes.
Just pull the muscle, just covering his face in shame in his shoulder.
Yes.
Which is interesting because, if there's no academy football, then I guess he's not really doing any training right now. I guess it's probably a similar deal to Sam Hutchinson, who we'll get onto, who's, I imagine he's not even on the training ground at all. I imagine he's just like, just stay at home. So I don't know. It's very strange. But yeah, anyway, extensions to Paul Jones. On the more positive side of the more kind of players we will see on the pitch more, Kieran Lee, as we said, that was kind of made news the week previous, just from a press conference that Gary Monk felt so confident about it that it was all agreed that he could just talk about it and mention it. Nothing else was mentioned. And the final one is Big Dave at DNU. Costa and Snooky sticking around till the end of July.
So I think I didn't initially pick up the wider context of what that meant, and now it seems clear that the subtext is true, is text now. But the fact that Fletcher, Fox, and I think Forestieri was mentioned, had said they didn't want to sign short deals.
Yeah. Well, it's the interesting thing always is with that language that's used is that essentially those players you've said that basically. Okay, so moving on, Sam Hutchinson and Sam Winnall, no great surprises, no great shakes, have been released. So it's basically saying we don't want to offer them a contract. So there we go. So they're done. But, basically saying the fact that, Fox and Fletcher, we've offered Paul Jones, Nuyu, and Lee, and they've accepted. And Fox, Fletcher, and Fernando have been offered, but they've not accepted those deals.
Yeah. So first I sort of took that as not having any actual, there's no wider context. It was just these were these short-term deals so that they cover us for July, and actual sort of contract negotiations could still go either way. But hearing Monk talk since, it's pretty clear those players are not going to be Wednesday players anymore.
See, this is the interesting thing. I don't know how much of that is purely just him making very conservative noises in the press.
Well, he said about Fox today, he said, I've loved working with him. He's such a great character. I'll try working on him on the bus up. But basically, he's going.
Yeah. But then I guess the interesting thing, in seemingly, faint whiffs of ITK-ness, Alan Nixon, the Sun journalist, who I find it tedious. We often refer to him, but I think he's probably the person we have is closest to any sense or rumblings of ITK within what's kind of going.
Yeah, it's the only one that really seems to know.
Yeah, and has a pretty high kind of success rate on kind of things he does. And then things, change as well. So he's basically seemingly saying that, offers are probably seemingly still on the table for them. But there are much lower deals. But the lower deals they might have might still be higher than what they can get elsewhere. So I think it's probably conservative and probably fitting that Gary Monk is saying that I mean, after the game today, Gary Monk was asked about rumours linking us with James Garner, the Man United young midfielder.
Right, okay.
Of which, he pretty much played a straight bat to and just said, I don't really know what's going to go on. We don't know what the transfer window is going to look like. We don't know, when all that's crystallized and when all that's finalized, we'll know. Which is fair to say, which is, I do, as much as we can say and talk about Gary Monk as a manager, it's very, very small positives, but I mean, I do enjoy how he talks about things. He's got a comforting patter, but it's a little bit round about the houses without,
He says a lot without saying very much, kind of thing.
Sure, and I think that's kind of the nature of what it is, unless you're at the point of you say something, you're very antagonistic, you're getting away with things, you say something very funny, or you're just very blunt and outright and saying things that you shouldn't be saying. So that's kind of the situation. I never really know. There's a Wednesday fan who does a bit of journalism, Matt Brown, seemingly saying that he's heard that they're done, basically. But that's it. They're not coming back. They're done. Which, I mean, could happen. But I mean, I thought the thing would be with this is we've been talking to them for a long time. I'm sure we've got a good idea of how much money they want. We would have also said, this is how much money we're willing to pay you, and here are the terms. There could be renegotiation, but I'm pretty certain that we've been long in this conversation to say, this is what we think. This should be your contract if you want to stay at Sheffield Wednesday Football Club.
Well, presumably, there's a lot of what players are worth to us compared to what they are worth to other teams, isn't
Sure.
there? So I would hope we've taken a very realistic look at those three. And I mean, I'm surprised if we've offered Forestieri a deal beyond just this month. I'd be very surprised at that. But that's sort of reading between the lines. That's kind of seems to be the case that we've made some sort of offer to him.
There seems to be also previously, apparently, there was talk at some point about extending his contract for another year, but that never really materialized. That was another thing I heard as well.
But there's no way he does not deserve another year of what he's on with us.
No.
And so I think, and Fletcher, I think, came in at a premium. He joined us from 10 years in the Premier League.
Yes.
29 years old. And, he's had a great season, but he's also missed half that season. And he's the wrong side of 30 now. In a lot of ways, we know he's not like the Messiah, if you know what I mean. Like, we know he's very good, but he's also not been part of wonderful dragging the team up.
Yeah, but I mean, he's also not been a naughty boy, to kind of go with that kind of Monty Python analogy he's gone with there.
Yeah.
I think there's a positive to say for Fletcher, which is like, I think it'd be great to keep him around. I think it'd be great, but I imagine he's probably going to want another 2 years. It's still like a decent chunk after one of his best seasons at the Championship.
Yeah.
I'm sure he feels confident in his abilities. I'm sure you have to, but also he seems like that type of character. I don't think he's going to fault for his kind of confidence. I think also, it seemed to be he was a big effect on the team. He was very much a talisman for some of our better performances, better games this season. 13 league goals for us, and seems to be very well liked on the training ground. And obviously, he's busy mates with Baz as well. So the thing that I think I still am a little bit disappointed because I think I didn't think, and also I think I could maybe say the same for Morgan Fox. I thought they would have been possibly more professional to play for this month, but maybe actually on the flip side of that, especially just looking at Fletcher, maybe it's going to give him another injury anyway. I mean, he's already kind of come back. He's basically played 5 minutes since the restart, right?
That appearance does make you wonder whether he just didn't want
I
to.
I guess there's the interesting thing. If he goes elsewhere, he gets himself a nice bumper final kind of retirement contract, or maybe one of his last kind of bigger pay deals. I mean, he got a fair wedge with us. He also got the reason we got him from Norwich, that was supposedly the deal, is we offered him 4 years as opposed to Norwich offering 3 years. So, and I, definitely in the past, I've definitely said about Stephen Fletcher, I can't believe we gave him 4 years because he's, for all his greatness, he's also had a bunch of injuries.
Yeah,
and
it's interesting.
The seasons that he's missed before this one, you know?
Yeah, but that's where I'm saying, I think, to us, Fletcher, if we're paying him what we're paying him, has to be the line leading talisman, and he has to an extent done that very well. I mean, one of the things that they kept talking about on Sky was when we beat Bristol City on the 22nd of December, we were third in the table. And the big difference, I mean, we know that there's the EFL thing and we know that there's the behind the scenes stuff. But the biggest difference on the pitch was, well, Fletcher was injured and our form took a nosedive. So he's clearly a hugely important person for us. But I suppose what I'm saying is he's probably been worth what he was on. You can't guarantee that from now on.
Yeah.
And for another team, whether it be someone like Burnley, a kind of bumping around the lower middle of the Premier League, Burnley seem to like signing championship strikers and getting some juice out of them. I mean, they play Vidra and Chris Woods and just big lump strikers seems to be their a penchant of Sean Dyche's. I'm sounding like Sean Dyche with a bit of a frog in my throat here, but a club like that, or West Brom going up and being an extra man for them that offers something a bit different, he is going to be more valuable to them. They're going to be able to pay him more than we will for a guy that we can't actually rely on to be our main striker because he's not present enough.
Yeah. Ideal world, if no one else was knocking, if there's no competition, I'd really like another year at least of Stephen Fletcher. I still think, even on maybe reduced terms. I personally, again, this is a weird thing, I don't think it's the end of anything. It's interesting. I think it's disappointing with Fox. But, also says a little bit about Fox that he still went today. He still went and featured.
Yes.
In the game we had today. So that says a lot about him. So I think we've kind of covered what I've kind of written my notes about Fox and Fletcher. I'm disappointed, but because I think I said last week is I'm quite an anxious person. I'm probably panicking a lot looking at the state of the squad and looking at who our striking options are, though it seems to be from this game, which we'll cover in the show, and then last week as well. De Cruz does seem to be an option up front. Now we've got, it's nice to see that Newu's committed for at least the end of this season. Again, we'll cover that in time, but I think we're both pretty adamant we'd like to see, Newu extend.
That's the weird thing to me is I don't understand what signing the short-term deal means either. Because is that Atty being, not selfless, he's getting money, but kind of offering to do that extra month for us with no guarantee of.
Well, I think the interesting thing, I think that's the thing, because I think you'll probably, maybe I more kind of identify with, I think we can probably say this because me and you are civilians who do, regular, normal, unglamorous, probably moderately paying in the society, certainly a lot better than just as a personal thing. I still owe student loan money to the UK.
Yeah.
Recalling the fact that I worked in admin for the NHS in a hostel in Sheffield, where 1 year I earned £12,000 a year. And that's kind of very standard for working in the public sector in a northern town. But obviously me and you do okay for ourselves these days, I will say.
This is a wonderful meander.
Wonderful meander. But I kind of identify with Paul Jones, with Adi Nuyu, with Kieran Lee for that mentality of thinking like it's a very uncertain environment, and those players is kind of unsure where they're going to go next. It probably makes sense for them to get another month's pay. Though the only thing I don't really understand is there seems to be I wish I could figure this out or find this out somewhere. People have mentioned that players are still played for July anyway as part of like a severance deal at the end of the
loyalty thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Right, but I don't really kind of understand because essentially the contracts go to the end of June, and then effectively, if this was a regular season, if normal service was applying right now, we would sign somebody, we would be signing players about now, right? From the 1st of July. There might be some announcements in the news that, look, this is going to happen. Sometimes you get some way you announce because they've signed a pre-contract agreements.
But this is where the football authorities have kind of let everyone down in a way, because it is to an extent going to taint this next month of football.
It does, because it's an absolute bizarre. It's a complete shit show. Everything is it's a very farcical little circus Really?
But the EFL, the Premier League, and the PFA have wads of money in reserve. They could have said everyone plays July, loan players stay on, and there's special insurances in place. So if you can prove that you've kind of lost out on an opportunity by...
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I guess it's also unfair because effectively, I mean, not that any of these players have got holidays, but effectively the mentality is kind of a bit like, well, you sign in July, you come back in training about mid-July, or wherever it is, or early July, maybe you get like a week off, basically, you do your preseason, you start the season in August, you go through typically to about early May, late May if you got to play playoffs. You've got a month off of your vacation that we're paying you for, much like me and you as civilians with, permanent contracts with our employers.
Yeah.
Kind of works out the same deal as well. So that would be your time to take a break. So effectively they've already had their holiday. I mean, they can't really go anywhere or do anything, but, effectively...
But I don't know of any employer that's saying, hope you enjoyed your lockdown holiday. You're not allowed any more holidays this year.
But again, this is also a difficult conversation because, again, football's completely different.
Yes.
But I mean, there could really be a mentality to just say, look, we've extended your contract.
But I don't think that they're not paid as their contracts finish on the 30th of June.
I know.
Because you signed for the next team on the 1st of July. So I don't think, even though they get a payment that month, it's not a payment of wages. It's a loyalty payment. So basically, players get loyalty payments even when they sign for another club because they've not asked for the transfer request. That's why asking for a transfer request is such a big thing, because you're passing up essentially a month's wages to do that.
Yeah.
So I do know what you're saying. I think they would have. I think they needed to have assurances from one of those kind of higher bodies, or all of them mixing together, to just sort of say it's going to make everything easier if we just say your contract's got another 4 weeks on it. Loans are extended by 4 weeks. It's all this sort of stuff. Especially now, I mean, one of the other things to talk about is the fact that even though Penny and Van Aken are sort of returned to us and their season's finished, they can't play for us because they're not in a curtailed league. So knowing that loan players couldn't go play somewhere else anyway means that all those loans till the end of the season should have just been extended, because otherwise what are those players doing? And presumably if you loaned a player out, you wanted them to play. So it's just a bit of much of it was rushed and not thought through, and I think this is the worst bit of it, really, in some ways, because it's going to hurt the competitions between now and the end of the season. I don't see enough from. We've only really talked about the poster boy of all this, again, Lyle Taylor. I haven't seen enough from other teams that it's hurting them in the same way it's hurting Wednesday. This experiment to extend the season hurts Wednesday because we can't, and it's frustrating that we can't sign free agents to bring in for this period. But I know Charlton have a similar number of players that they can't draw on now. I think they offer deals to 6 or something, and 4 turned them down. Right.
So, I mean, it'd be interesting, especially the last 2 results they've won, the last 2 games, Charlton, which is kind of surprising. To go back to, I think, the player we haven't really talked about, we talked about Fox and Fletcher. So I thought it was also interesting that the offer's still on the table for Nando. I hope the contract offer is for a Curly Whirly and a stray pack from a Knick Knacks multi-pack that no one wants. The money he has clawed from this club for being injured or allegedly racist or both has been despicable. And I really hope we don't see him ever again in England. Like, I'm fucking done with the guy.
But Luke, he posted on social media that you shouldn't. There's 2 sides to every story.
Like it looked like was it Prince?
Yeah, Prince William giving someone the finger, but he's actually holding up the 3. Do you know what, Fernando? Please tell us your side of the story, because what I have seen is a man baby throwing his toys out, basically behaving different levels of despicable behaviour is what we've seen out of you. Pretty limited performances when you bother to be not injured or, as you say, not racist. Please tell us your story, Fernando. I'd love to hear it.
Well,
even in a kind of, Cartman-esque salty tears sort of way. please tell me the Fernando Forestieri story.
Because we do hear a lot of that. There's a lot of protestations, but there's never any kind of material to look at. I mean, I know there's public court. He could tell his side of the story, and we could be like, yeah, it sounds like bullshit. We don't really care. But it's also the strange thing that, like, the thing that kind of upsets me is it's a little bit like Kieran Westwood, but probably a bit less so. You know, I will say with Kieran Westwood, his PR material is a lot better than Fernando Forestieri.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
he does a lot better job of
posting the screenshots of notes that his agent sent him.
His agent sent him, and he's maybe just discussed it with a PR person or something like that. It's a lot more kind of balanced, and I have a lot more kind of time for. And maybe that's difficult with maybe someone who's, you know, ESL, English as a second language.
Yeah.
But it's the weird thing that
because he speaks Irish.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It was a bit like John Sheridan. He took that first sip of Guinness in Manchester. We can never really understand it. I think that's probably the giant communication issues of him and his back four this season. That's probably what's happened. But the funny thing with Fernando is, like, there's so much PR and badge kissing, but yet the performances aren't there, and he doesn't make it seem like he wants to be here. So the funny thing is, he's just feeling very conflicted to Wednesdayites because he spends all this time doing all this stuff, but it just seems like he's just got this massive contract of 4 years, and I'm just going to see it out for 4 years, or however long it's been now. Has been about 4 years, right?
I think it is, yeah.
It's 4 years since 2016. He got didn't get his bike or his birthday or his Yaya Toure birthday cake or whatever the hell it was, and he got himself a new improved contract. Because he didn't think he was getting paid as much as some of the bigger owners at the club, which at the time was probably maybe a touch insolent, but actually at the time you'd probably say, yeah, he's our best player. He was It's so long ago that I've completely forgotten the magic of Fernando Forestieri, because there was a time when, like, me and you would think, oh, isn't it? We would be like really amused, or we would think it was really cute about the him getting the T-shirt printed with the Pete McKee cartoon of the referee saying, pick a card, any card.
Yes.
And that was kind of nice. You know, there was a time
I actually thought the bike thing at first was funny. And then you're like, oh, no, this is a preening millionaire whining about not quite having as many millions as the next millionaire. It's really disappointing, actually, watching it back. It's so kind of...
And it's just really awful that that's what we have. That's our lasting memories of him. And it's sad. It's so awful and sad. You don't want as a fan. We don't know what happens at the club. We don't know what the standard policy is with players. We don't know if some of these players have been treated. You know, but I feel like for any criticism you can leverage at Chansiri or any of the executive at Wednesday, I think we've been incredibly fair to Fernando Forestieri.
But on both fronts, Forestieri was... So the first moan was Fletcher. He wanted to be paid as much as Fletcher, wasn't it?
Pretty much,
That's what the sulking and not travelling to Derby was about.
Norwich.
That's... Norwich, sorry, yeah. And the bike, it was Derby that were interested, isn't it, around the same time? Sorry, that's why I've got mixed up. And the bike was around that because Fletcher got, I think he got a car or a company car as part of his sort of signing bonus or something. So that was all jealousy at Fletcher. But the thing is, so Forestieri is a very good player, and he had been a very good player for us that season. But he didn't turn up in the playoff final.
No.
He could have made himself a Premier League player if he'd turned up in the playoff final.
I know.
Fletcher is a guy that played his 20s in the Premier League. He's been pretty much the first choice striker. I know it's not the best national team, but he is an international. He's a first choice for his national side, again, for about a decade. There are plenty of reasons that Stephen Fletcher deserves more money than Fernando Forestieri deserved at that time. Even more so now. Oh, anyway, we should keep moving along because
I know.
It's very frustrating because, like I say, please do, deign to give us your side of the story, Fernando. We'd love to hear it because from the outside looking in, you've just behaved disgracefully and more often than not taken the club for a ride, and for the last 2 or 3 years of that, we've barely seen any reward for sticking by you and paying you a tremendous wage, a thundering wage.
I just want to say as well, again, we said it before, what a sad goodbye to Hutch.
Yes.
It panned out how we thought it would go, but it still hurts a little.
It does. I do feel like there's a bit of a lightning about the place. I don't know whose departure in particular has been part of that, but it does feel since the restart that Hillsborough seems to be a slightly more pleasant place to be. And I thought Gary Monk, obviously the win helps today, but I thought Gary Monk was talking in the week even sounded like a sort of different guy, and quite excited for planning the future in some ways, even though there's the unknown of the EFL charge. Because what we've bought ourselves with all these players leaving is a big chunk of potential budget to put toward other players. And he seems to have a vision that he wants younger, hungrier, fitter players to be his model going forward. And this week was the first time I really felt like he was buying that. Like, this is the road we're on, and he's quite excited to kind of get going on it. And that was quite nice to have to feel, and also to have a win today to kind of add to that momentum, that positivity. We still don't have any confirmation on the loans, our loanees being able to stay, although we keep getting told it's days away. But interestingly, I don't know if you picked up, some people were commenting on the fact that he mentioned that the league had okayed the loans being extended. And I don't know whether that's just a formality in that the league need to okay everything, or whether that is part of the league like watching over our shoulder, and are we in some sort of embargo situation potentially? I suppose we won't know. But
I was going to say, finally, I'm a little bit disappointed for Sam Winnall also, but maybe that's also a largely shared disappointment in him alongside being disappointed for him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at you and with you, Sammy.
But again, another contentious character. I'd forgotten in all the Forest travails. Yes. They had their bust up on the training ground, and that
they really did. Yeah.
And we got rid of, so now we've got rid of both the characters there. Hutchinson and Westwood seem to be a kind of dynamic duo of killing team spirit as well. So one of those is out the door. Presumably Westwood's voice is kind of limited by one, not being there, and two, not having his mate to chip in with him. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of feel and hope we might be turning around the culture, which seems to have been wrong since Carlos's sort of first season, the end for the first season. There was also, just interestingly, we don't need to get into this too much, but there was also, we talked about Bush during some of our watch-along games, and he's talked about how he experienced racism while he was at Wednesday. Which doesn't speak well either. I mean, he's a guy who spanned Gray's time and Carlos's time, but I think that naturally some of the discussion went on to, well, how many, who are the characters who are still here that would have been in the dressing room at that time? And a couple of the folks who are on their way out were in that number. But I hope they weren't involved. But it's just it sort of speaks to maybe it's not been a great place to be, Sheffield Wednesday Football Club, for a while. So it's intriguing. Finally, the EFL hearing has started early, supposedly at the behest of other clubs. But we were supposed to maybe hear about it by the end of this week, but we haven't. So we're again waiting on news of that. Nobody knows anything about it. It's a behind closed doors thing, so anybody claiming to be in the know is probably not worth listening to.
I've got a few things I want to say, though.
Okay.
One thing I want to say is, if we believe there's some noodling from rival teams to bring the case forward by a week, then where the hell is Derby County's case?
I know.
So, and I don't understand technically why our case is worse than Derby's. It seems to be sounded out. But I don't know if that's generally just like there's a case against Derby. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Bournemouth may come down. Aston Villa may come down. The EFL, I imagine, will be knocking again on their doors, similar a bit to, funnily enough, QPR. And we can actually get onto that because Nick DeMarco, the lawyer of the Lionel Messi of sports law, is the man who actually, mounted a successful defense of QPR. And also Joey Barton. He's also Joey Barton's lawyer, hilariously as well.
Okay. Wow.
So
we've got Johnny Cochran, haven't we? That's what we've got.
Yes. So I don't understand. So it just feels very much like from the media then, and because Wednesday are in the position they're in, that basically the other clubs are clamming around thinking, well, if there's a points deduction for Derby, it's not really going to do anything in our favour.
Yeah.
But then, a points deduction for Wednesday might actually mean they get relegated.
It's Borough and Barnsley who've come out and said that they're waiting on our situation to play out. They've publicly, figures from those clubs have both said that. So yeah, it tells you where it's self-interest again.
I know, but it's also Steve Gibson, the Mario Balotelli of football chairman. Really, why always me? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's because you just run your mouth off 24/7, Steve. That's possibly the potential.
And the rules don't apply to you, but they do to other people.
So. Again, with the Derby thing, I said, well, we and them get points deductions purely because our favourite ex-status quo member has got blue balls from Birmingham, rejecting his horny, points-hungry advances.
But that QPR thing kind of, because that was a showing of actually how worthwhile is this thing? Because they spent all the money on God's green earth to get up. They went through 3 high-profile, expensive managers in that season. I think they spent something in the region of £20 million on just chopping and changing managers that season. So they were like 100. It's staggering sums. They were like 150 million they lost that season. It was wild. And they got up though, so they escaped. And the EFL at the start of that said, oh well, if QPR come down, we won't let them play in the Football League unless they pay a £35 million fine. And I think at the end of it, 5 years later, they paid something like 350,000.
Yeah.
And so to go from you'll not be able to play ever again to you're going to have to pay us the price of a top class international player to you're going to have to pay us the price of a League One, a promising League One starlet. That's quite a staggering step down from the Football League.
Yeah.
Which again made a pot for their own back with this, with the financial fair play, because I think every other club looked at that and they were just like, we don't. Well, what's the point paying attention to these rules?
You can't really back that up. Yeah, exactly. Regarding the person, so Nick DeMarco, like I said, successful defensive QPR. I mean, if you look at his Twitter, he's a man who can commit substantial hours and resources into a fancy cherry pie video. So they're probably in some really good hands. Also, the funny thing about his Twitter bio as well, so he did defend QPR. He also is a QPR fan.
Okay.
Which made me wonder if it's the first time anyone has legally represented the team they support.
Oh, that's fun. I also really like his album Salad Days. Sideline in Jungle Pop. That he
smokes a lot of cigarettes.
Yes. Yeah. Right. We should talk about the football match that happened today, Luke.
I should. There's one piece I want to say about the court case to finish off as well. So, I mean, we've got no idea where it'll go. We can pontificate as people do. I mean, we tend to think it's going to be negative. That's the thing it seems to go like. The thing I want to say, though, is we must have a stronger defence than Chansiri just adamantly shaking his head, right?
Yes, I would think so. Well, we've to risk retreading old ground again. Suppose that the heart of our defence is we were given advice by somebody who works for the EFL as to how to do this and the price that we could charge ourselves for our own football ground, because they were all on board with it 2 years ago. It's just since Rick Parry came in, he decided he doesn't like that, and it's not in the rules. So presumably if we can show, we were led up the garden path by somebody that works for them. That seems to be a pretty strong defence, I guess. But we just have to see. It's crazy that it's gone on this long and the parameters have not narrowed at all. So it can be anything from not guilty to 21 points, which is relegated without any possibility of getting it back. It's crazy that we are however many months, 6-7 months into this, and the parameters are still that wide. What a terrible situation to leave our club under, and half the league. The EFL is one of the shoddiest organisations in existence. I cannot believe the clubs. There should be some sort of revolution, because the way they've behaved during this coronavirus and things has been just impeccably bad, and sort of putting weird interests above the clubs and commercial interests above the clubs. It just seems to. I don't understand how the organisation works for the clubs it's supposed to represent at this point in time. It doesn't seem to be fit for the purpose. So, outside of our own issues, which hopefully we'll get some closure on in the week, it just seems utterly bizarre to be where we're up to. This could have been done on Zoom, and we could have known our fate before the games happened. That was a great big opportunity to talk these things through. Anyway. Right, yes. So, moving swiftly on. You don't have any more notes, no, Luke?
No, maybe I do. I was going to talk about the youngsters. It's a shame to see some of the youngsters released. I guess we'll never see any more of Preslav Borokov. Probably not good enough for the first team picture, but we'll never get to know that. I'm surprised Connor Kirby's gone.
There's a few of those names that have sort of bubbled around for that have gone. Yeah, I have no feel for who's good or not in the youth ranks, unfortunately. The only reason I thought I'm surprised at Borokov is he's had a few sub appearances. Well, he's not come on, but he's been on the subs bench a few times, which would make you think he's at least part way towards being considered first team wise, but maybe he's just a body to fill a space. Yeah, I don't know. I suspect that's one of those things that happens. Every club probably has a similar success rate of about one every 5 to 10 years that actually breaks through and makes it, and we don't see all the sad side of it at other clubs. We only see that at Wednesday.
That's very true.
So, Sheffield Wednesday taking on Bristol City at Ashton Gate. It's the first one of these displays of the fan in the stand that I've seen use social distancing.
Very good.
But yeah, I was shocked by that statistic. I do remember that we were third at one point, but 22nd of December we beat Bristol City with that sort of late Atty one penalty, and that took us to third in the table, and it's pretty crazy how bad we've been since then. But after last week's game, we were pretty pleased with some of the progress. We're slightly disappointed in the result, but performance-wise, it was a lot closer to what we would have wanted from the team. And we showed up with the same starting lineup again. Pleased at that?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I mean, I don't see any reason why that starting 11 should be disbanded.
So that basically meant we were three at the back again. Wildsmith keeps his place in goal. The two wingers playing wing back, and the midfield three of Luongo, Kieran Lee, Barry Bannon, and then up top Jordan Rhodes and Connor Wickham. And we started really brightly. We had two corners in pretty short order, and a fairly decent cross from Wickham. That was about sort of the first 2 or 3 minutes we really sort of rattled out, and then we sort of spent the next 10 minutes slightly under the cosh, including a really good save from Wildsmith from a Baker header from a corner, managing to not just save it but get it over the bar as well, which was very important. Naki Wells had a decent chance at sort of 12 minutes or so, but actually after that initial period, so we kind of ran out the gates, they then spent some time on top, but after that initial period, I thought we settled into quite a comfortable rhythm and tended to look fairly useful. We seemed to be able to build into their half and look to make things happen. I thought Wickham did a really nice job of sort of holding up the ball by and large, and Luongo also spread some really nice passes out to the wings. And that's where we sort of, the corner that we scored from was Luongo starting a move in that way. He sort of drew a couple of midfielders on and then put the ball out to Murphy. Murphy took a nice early cross out to Harris. Harris didn't make much of it, but he managed to win the corner. And then from the corner, shock horror, we had some sort of routine.
Yeah, and just absolutely beautiful to I think it was Bannon, was it? Was it Bannon took the corner?
No, it was Murphy.
It was Murphy, right. Yeah. So Lovely just kind of short whipped in, and just to see Wickham just darting forwards to just completely exploit that space. And what did they kind of say on the commentary about the Bristol City's number 6 defender, who should have been on him, but basically just got kind of impeded? But they said it on the commentary back to say, yeah, but they said it like, I thought, oh, you're trying to make a point that's a foul. And it wasn't. It was just purely the fact he was impeded because he was just a bit rubbish, basically.
I think they did say, it was clever from Burner blocking him off. But by and large, they said it was poor defending from Bristol City. But it reminded me of, it was a feature of Mourinho's Chelsea team. They used to really love doing things like that, where you block off one man's run, try not to be so physical that you give away a free kick. And I just thought Burner did it brilliantly, because what he did was he started battling with his man, and that's what blocked Baker. He didn't actually physically block Baker at all. So it was kind of his pushing and shoving with his own man was what got in the way of Baker and gave, it was a great delivery from Murphy, because that's the other thing that happens when a man gets free like that. Sometimes the corner kick taker gets overexcited and misses him, or the header's a bit weak. But actually, it all came together brilliantly. It was a really good delivery from Murphy, lots of whip on it, but it was exactly where it needed to be, and a great flicked header into the opposite corner from Wickham. But it was basically, perfect. Made it look so easy.
It was so easy, so simple, just exploiting that space, rising so well, and just such a lovely cushioned, guided header into the corner. Just completely dumbfounded everybody in that Bristol City defence.
Yeah, it was really good. Really good stuff. This is another stat that Sky brought up after our goal there. That was our 31st away goal this season. We've only scored 17 at home. So I think we're the top scorers away from home in the league, or one of them. And wow. One of the lowest at home. So just in terms of the way the match played, I do think by and large, we were pretty comfortable. I got a little bit worried at times. I thought Bannon they were really trying to sort of get in and around him and reduce the amount of time he had to pull strings and make things happen. But he seemed to want lots of time all the time. Like he needed that extra touch, which brought the pressure on. He didn't seem to respond, particularly first half. I think he did get better second half, but first half he didn't seem to respond to that pressing game from them particularly well. Including at one point, out of desperation, he kind of flicked a very artful volley about 30 yards back to Wildsmith from the halfway line. So he was feeling the pressure. What did you make of the ref today, Luke?
I thought he was okay. I didn't seemingly think there was anything bad or wrong in his
I just thought the fact we ended up with 2 yellows for very little. Like, I don't know what Rhodes was booked. Williams climbed all over the back of him, and then Rhodes, kind of frustrated, went into his next challenge. But it wasn't a bad challenge.
Well, I guess the only interesting thing I want to say about that is, and maybe this is something more about the nature of football, is that, is it first half or is it second half, Kieran Lee takes one for the team.
Yes.
And very much a professional foul. But, obviously that's a yellow card. But the problem there is a spectrum of yellow cards. So Callum O'Dowda doing a real nasty lunge at Wickham is also a yellow, because it's maybe not quite a red, because maybe you see it's not two-footed, but it's also a nasty and awful challenge.
I thought that probably was a red.
I was thinking
I think if Wickham went down holding his knee, do you know what I mean? Like, he was helped by the fact that Wickham was angry and jumped straight up. I think if Wickham made more of it, he could have probably got O'Dowda sent off. But that was the frustrating thing. So I felt like the ref, I don't think he did any howling awful errors, but he was sort of picky in certain things. He seemed to have a bee in his bonnet, basically, about, he was sort of protecting Williams because he's not that tall as a centre-back. I don't know. Like, he gave things against Rhodes where I didn't think it was anything. Wickham twice just out-muscled him fairly and got fouls given against him. But that was the classic. The Kieran Lee one, absolutely, it's a yellow card. Iorfa has gone for a run in circumstances that were not ready for him to go for a run. he had two quick players watching him very closely, lost the ball, and Kieran Lee has done the professional thing and stopped them in their momentum. But then we broke from that free kick, and Masengo took Harris out, and he didn't even talk to him. And it's like, that's exactly the same foul. He's gone, oh, they're getting away from us. Our defenders are up the field, so I'll kick him. That should be a yellow card as well. I was a bit, sorry, just to kind of, just my little stupid joke that I wrote down. Williams seems to be big mates with the ref. The ref believes that gentleman prefers blondes, but certain gentlemen can't afford to have standards.
Very good.
And then I think he's also the first Homer ref to be influenced by the presence of some cardboard cutouts.
Well, I guess the interesting thing, so I kind of want to say, near the beginning, the interesting thing I think we've had with both this game and the Forest game is saying at moments like it seems a little, you get moments where it seems a little bit heated.
Yes.
But it doesn't really go over the boil because no one's there. And the crowd aren't there to influence it. So therefore, the crowd don't add to the atmosphere. And the atmosphere, the crowd doesn't influence the referee through that atmosphere that they're creating.
It doesn't get that rolling boil effect, does it?
No, no. It's a mild simmer, and then you take the lid off, and then it just dies down.
Yeah.
Really. So one of my notes is if a tree is up for it in the middle of a forest and no one is around. So already game's hotly contested behind closed doors because this is just with this whole restart and the whole thing goes, I thought, it'd be fun. It'd be fun to see what it's like behind closed doors. And, it's all a bit playing on the moon, but that could be kind of interesting to look at. Yeah. And then now I'm at the point of watching it. And frankly, it's not. It's shit. It's really bad.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
Just, I don't know. I thought it was funny. I was chatting with my brother and I said, if you're watching any of the football, brother Andy, he said, no, not much of the Premier League. My brother's a big fan of the Bundesliga.
Okay.
But I think it's all varying degrees of a bit shit behind closed doors.
Yes.
Like, it's all the same. I don't think there's any, I think there's a mentality of looking at that, saying, like, there's a certain, tactical approach that's being taken and skill set that makes it. But it's still the same. There's no, it's so... And the funny thing about this is I thought, so there wasn't any piped in crowd noise for this one.
Oh, the Sky had a bit of low level. So you could hear the players, but there was also a bit of crowd noise, I think.
So I didn't have that on my feed, but then I saw highlights of other Championship live games through the rights having here in Canada as DAZN. I think it's like ESPN in the States. And those other games did have sound effects. It wasn't quite as pronounced as the Premier League. So I was expecting it to be the same, but it wasn't. So it was just a bunch of, and then there was some applause and cheering around the goals. But I don't know if that was purely just from the noise from the bench.
There, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, strange.
I don't know. So I was going to say grounds are also very much less a cauldron, just a very large, clean stock pot.
It is. I think the thing is, football, particularly in this country, I'm sure other places as well, I just can't speak to that. That's not my knowledge or experience to speak to. But in this country, it's such a tribal thing. It's an identity. It sets the tone for your weekend and week and all the rest of it. And I think having fans there does make it all feel a bit anodyne and weird. There's also the fact that the players aren't quite as fit as they are mid-season. So I think every team seems to be taking like the first half pretty slowly. The drinks break really doesn't help. I think it kills every game I've seen it in.
With any sense of momentum.
Yeah. And it makes it feel tin pot and weird. Yeah. Like your mom's called you over for some orange juice. It's strange.
So
did you see the ref today? Or the one he called in the second half? There was a play. I think there was something about to happen, and a player got almost in his face about it. And it's like, it's time for a drink. Do you not want a little drink? Like he just. It was so like.
I think on our commentary, they made a point about Lee Johnson being mildly irked that it wasn't the 67th minute; it was actually just the 66th minute. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, man! No. Seriously, I couldn't. Yeah, they didn't really cut to Lee Johnson getting a bit heated in his sweater, but and his pullover. But
just sort of doing that thing where you like fan yourself slightly with the take a pinch of the jumper and just move it back and forth.
Well, he doesn't really have a match day program, does he, in this world to kind of to waft himself with, does he? But I guess there's an interesting thing, just going back to like the referee, the fact that there's no atmosphere, that doesn't really make things kind of heated, does it? And it doesn't make that kind of cauldron of, fans baying for blood and asking for the, to the point where either the referee is persuaded by it or they just go the other way. In case of, I think, a lot of games at Hillsborough, they're going to make a real strong point to say, I'm not going to be intimidated by these fans. So they just go completely the other way, to the point where it's completely unfair in the other regards, really. So
yeah, I think looking back, the ref had a fairly good game. I just thought it just felt like there was a couple of those incidences that kind of happened almost back to back, and he sort of dealt out quite different justice to them and us, despite the fact they felt like very similar incidents. And Bannon, after that, the guy, forgotten his name again, after Masengo did that foul, which I think was his third or fourth foul, he was a bit like, he sort of tackled people in the way Semedo used to, just like grabbing at them with both hands and both legs at the same time, just to kind of off balance them. No one bit is a foul, but added together, it's like 6 fouls every time you get the ball from someone. But he was so he had that sort of style. But that he just hoofed Harris over, and Bannon was in the ref's face saying like, "What? How's that different to what they just did? What we were just penalised for." And I think after that, he did seem to kind of, and as you say, there was just no steam in the match. I think the second half was pretty tame.
Yeah.
By and large.
Well, that was the thing I wondered about this, is that, obviously there was more after the first goal, but it maybe had the smackings of a game where a team scored too early, effectively.
Possibly.
Yeah. A few anodyne little bits and bobs I want to pick out from the first half before we move on. Baz needs a haircut. I think a lot of them need haircuts. I didn't even recognise Fox came on us at the second half. We can get onto that.
He's looking very hairy, yeah.
He's looking very shaggy. Wickham also has some Elevate panties.
I saw that.
Where can I buy those?
I know, they look swish.
I mean, I've got the range of
as good.
DU Taxis merchandise, as you know. Last time Rich saw me, I was all head to toe, and DU Taxis, get up. I look like a real.
Those Elevate boxers or trunks would look just as good over my relaxed muscle as they did on Wickham's abs.
Rich's relaxed muscle. That's a good episode title. So the thing I want to say about the play, again, we're shifting the play quite well, but I don't think the crossfield passing was particularly fantastic going out to the wings.
It was a bit slow, I think, quite often.
So I was saying various shades of spraying the ball out wide to varying degrees of success. They're rainbow scratch card passes, though with a touch more fortune, like you win another rainbow scratch card. But there's not many John Sheridan leprechauns at the end of each rainbow.
Yes, I concur. It's
because there were some good ones, but there are also some not so good ones. I don't think the 3-5-2 is doing okay for us, but I think it's another game where I don't think there's a lot of there's not much quality from Harris and Murphy in the wingback slots.
You're right, although I do think they both. It feels like they've been coached quite well on the defensive side of things, because I think they're both using their natural ability, which is pace, to just nip things in the bud. Like, they're right at players as soon as the ball drops. They are there in their faces. So they're winning the ball quite often, I think, in those tussles, which is really good. So it is working fairly well defensively. I also think Palmer seems to be really enjoying his role. He did a great job on Afobe. Afobe's a very good player, and he did a number on him today. And he just seems to, we said last time, he seems bigger. He seems like to have grown in stature. I think he's always been 6 foot something, but he looks it as a centre back. He looks filled out and strong. And
do you find it funny that, like, from these games, we're almost having like an Iorfa-like presence from Palmer?
Almost, isn't it?
It's getting a bit more there, yeah.
And he made a great early on in the second half.
Yes.
Absolutely tremendous block where he had to come all the way across. I thought it's funny what it does to Iorfa because he's giving up a lot of his sort of innate Iorfa-ness for the good of the team. Because you can tell he'd quite like to go on a run from time to time because he likes to stretch those big long legs. But it doesn't. He's so rarely going to get that opportunity to do it safely, and today he forced one, and that's where Kieran Lee took his yellow. But it does suit him as well because he's so quick and strong that he's great as a shadow for the other two. So if you somehow manage to get past Palmer or Burner, he's there to just smash it away, and he did that really, really well quite often. I do think he's not always the best headerer of the ball defensively, and a couple of times towards the end that was almost catching us out.
Did you say headerer?
Headerist, hedonist.
Roger Hederer.
Roger Hederer.
Did you find it funny? I mean, to kind of cap your kind of serious point, we're doing really well in this 3-5-2 with the three defensive centre backs.
Yeah,
I think it's working for all three of them. I find it funny that I'm finding that Palmer's the best out of them, but that's not a damnation of the other two.
No,
it's just that Palmer's just doing so well. Palmer's looking so much
much.
Yeah, I know.
He's sort of breaking forward at times as well. He seems to be. It sort of gives him the space that he doesn't normally get as a fullback if he goes forward. Because it's a rarity to have a centre back come over the halfway line. It seems to just buy him a little bit more time, and he likes that as well. It just seems to suit him down to the ground. The unfortunate thing is, so Burner spent quite a lot of time down injured towards the end of the first half, and then was subbed off for Morgan Fox at half time. So if we don't have Fox and Burner's injury carries over into other games, that disappointingly we might lose this really good defensive shape because of no fault of our own again. Because who do you want as that third man, really?
Because Monk has picked up on what we've seemingly kind of said, and that shouldn't really look and test upon Tom Lees.
Well, there's not more than, to be fair, to give Tom Lees his due, what he's not is, of all the things he is, he's definitely not a left-sided centre-back, and certainly not the left side of a three, I don't think.
Is he the centre of a three?
So you could say, Palmer can play left-back and has played left-back, considerable amount of left-back. And if he can play left-back, he could play that left side, maybe. So, and then you'd have Tom Lees on where Palmer has been playing. But all of it, it's unfortunately you're losing the person who seems best suited to the formation in their best position. I hope Burner's okay. I hope it's a preemptive. We know we're not going to have Fox next game, so we might as well use him because we've got him now. We'll see. It would be a real shame to find this new shape that seems to work fairly well, particularly seems to work well defensively for us, and to have it sort of broken up so early doors would be really frustrating and very much of this season. But we battered into the second half as well in the same way. Created quite a few chances in short succession. The best one probably Jordan Rhodes had one from a Wickham sort of cutback. That was a decent effort, sort of straight at the goalie, but it was a...
Was that the end of the first half?
No, I thought it was the start of the second.
Well, I can kind of look and say, building up to that, I think Rhodes had won the stroke of half time, which I think was quite a good chance, and I think I remember he should have done better with that one.
Yes, the one where Wickham was in a good position, like at the back post.
Was it the one where Murphy? This was delightful. I loved Murphy burning Jack Hunt for pace. Nipping behind him, he knocked it in, and then Rhodes' shot was deflected by one of the Bristol City defenders. That would have been first
half. Yes, that was
the end of the first half, and I was like, I think he should have done better with that one.
Because they just had a chance before that as well at our end, hadn't they? So it was a sort of flurry of... it looked like everybody was kind of winding down to the end of the half, and then there was this flurry of chances at either end.
Mm-hmm. What did you think about the? I know Murphy had a shot in the 58th minute, which was, I think, a bit of a classic Jacob Murphy. I mean, the funny thing was the first angle I think I saw from it, I thought, oh, it's another incredibly artful, well-hit strike from Jacob Murphy, but maybe needs a bit more power on it.
Yeah.
But when they went and actually showed it from the camera angle behind Murphy, he did an exceptional job on that one, and it was a very good save from the Brizzle keeper.
I thought he looked. I totally agree with you that we didn't see a huge amount of quality from either of the wing backs going forward, but I thought he looked a bit closer to.
Yes.
He looked like he was finding his feet again, because the early cross he hit for Harris that got us the corner that the first goal came from, that was the sort of thing he just wasn't doing last game. He wasn't just whipping it across, and he did that a couple of times. And pushing past Hunt and getting that ball in was good, and then cutting inside and having that really good shot with his left foot. I mean, that was a very, very decent effort. And if it had gone in, we would have been raving about it. It was pretty plumb stuff. Did we score straight from that? So was it the Murphy shot? Was it the corner from the Murphy shot that we got the second goal from?
I think it was. Yes, I think that's definitely the timeline, because also it's sandwiched between something else, which we'll come on to. So again, we've really capitalised from these corners.
Yeah, I mean, this was not a good call. It was a Bannon corner this time. We seem to keep trying this thing at the near post. It didn't hugely work, but
no,
this one worked so badly it worked well.
Well, that was Fox running onto it, right? And then he kind of either dummied it or missed it.
Yeah.
And then it went and go through to who was the player who was kind of scuffing it across for Luongo finished. Who was that in the middle?
I'm not entirely sure.
Anyway, the kind of, a bit of scuffing, rough bounce off, and a very lovely tight swivel finish from Action Mass. 2-0.
It was a really good. It's like that seems to be the sort of goal he picks up quite often. Like he hits it. It's not technically perfect, but it's the right shot for the context. Mm-hmm. He did really well again. He also stole the ball off Kieran Lee a few minutes after that to try and have an effort from distance, which didn't work out quite so well. But I like the fact he's feeling so confident that he's desperate to get there. And we almost Oh, Lordy, we should have been 3-0 up.
I know, it should have been 3-0 up. I know, and I was really worried watching it back without living in the bubble I did. I didn't get up at the ridiculously early time. I just thought, I'm going to fire up the zone, just play the game, and then, just watch. Just leaving my phone on airplane mode this morning. So, but yeah, just I couldn't believe. I mean, what a lovely ball out and some great kind of control and work from Massimo Luongo. He plays it in, and you think Wickham should at the very least be hitting the target, and he scuffed it wide.
There was a man right, but if he hit it straight at the goal, there's a man between him and the goal. I sort of understand that adds a layer of difficulty, but he had so much. They were so isolated. He could have taken a touch or two and still got a clean shot away. He just went, he just scuffed it, didn't he, badly? But that was, that I don't. Did you see who played the pass to Luongo?
I was wondering whether it was a crossfield pass from either centre. It might have been Bannon or maybe Murphy. I think it was quite a long pass.
It was It was a great run from Luongo just to find that space. And I think that is actually why we made the De Cruz change, because I think it just looked like that space was going to be on whenever we wanted it over the top. So putting De Cruz on there with his pace and legs would just give us a constant outball. And it never quite paid off, unfortunately, but I was really liking how we were just desperately trying to get De Cruz one-on-one with Williams. Ashley Williams, who clearly, his days are well and truly numbered at this level.
Yes, very much so.
Should not be playing championship football. He is for the knackers yard.
Yeah.
And I liked that we'd picked up on, let's just try and get, if we can get it where they are running alongside each other, it will look like Williams is going backwards. It never quite worked, but I liked that we were working at it. And I think the fact that it was on for us meant that they had to keep more of a defensive cover than probably they would have liked to as they were starting to chase the game. So unfortunately, they didn't have very much in the way of chances, but the 69th minute, they made a change at 65 that I think was important for them. So they brought on Diageo. Is that how you say his name?
I think so, yes.
He let them play a lot more direct. And
what an interesting thing to look at Bristol City. Like, they've got two strikers in Naki Wells, who's been a player that we've, often adored, often batted our eyelashes towards, and we've never kind of, again, a similar deal to how we talked about Graben. He's another one of those prominent championship strikers who we love at the club, but we've never seemingly been in the right place at the right time with the right money on the table to bring into the club. They've got him, they've got Benik Afobe. Benik Afobe previously, like a very expensive, very accomplished striker. Looking at Afobe, I mean, you can look at them as a pairing and say they were pretty quiet today, even though it was a goal from Wells, wasn't it? Which we'll get on to, which was the kind of rebound from Baker and good positioning. But we made both of them look very, very ordinary. And I was wondering regarding Benik Afobe, like, what happened to him as a player?
I think injuries have been a big factor for him, unfortunately. But I think he's tended to get a decent number of goals when he's played at championship level. I don't think he's quite Premier League quality, but I think he does. He's probably one of these guys that fairly regularly gets 10 or more, I think. I'm going to double check myself now.
Yeah, no, I was kind of going to do the same as well.
But that changed when they brought on Diageo. That started them another sort of phase of the game where they were looking to go long all the time, and their goalkeeper can thump the ball, man alive. It really travels. I don't think he's aiming it particularly well all the time, but I'm looking at it's not looking great, his goals record, to be honest.
No, I think it's a different world since his days of Wolves. He went to Wolves, he went to Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Those were the good times, and then he went back to Wolves, and he's not done anything. And then he's been a large signing for Stoke and done seemingly fuck all for Stoke, pretty much. 3 and 5, basically, or 3 and 6 if you count sub appearances for Bristol.
Yeah.
Apparently he has had a large ACL injury, which is why basically he's been back at these 2 games, and the last time he played was the end of August for Bristol.
Right.
As well.
Okay.
So I mean, obviously that's going to take a big hit. But I don't know, Bristol City I know there's a Bristol City fan posting on Al's Talk referring to Lee Johnson is often referred to as Streaky Lee, in which basically goes on a very good run and then he has a very bad run. But I naturally thought that they're very much the definition of a championship inconsistent side. They're a team with some good players who can hurt you. And it's funny looking at that Bristol, because there's a lot of, when they named the lineup, I was like, there's a lot of talent there.
Definitely.
You've got Vyman and O'Dowda. I think we'd all still kind of like Jack Hunt at the club.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then obviously, I'd still love, even if they were misfiring, 2 strikers and, the capability of Wells and Afobe up front.
And they've got the very highly rated Palmer, who just doesn't seem to get that many games for them.
Casey Palmer.
He was like the next big thing. He was the gay dad a few years ago. It's going to be a big hit. So yes, they made that change, and I think that was when we started to look a little bit shakier, because I think we couldn't quite figure out what to do with him. We couldn't handle him in the same way we'd done with Afobe, and we didn't quite get to grips with him in quite the same way. This is harsh, but the goal they scored is a bit of a Wildsmith classic in that it was a great save from the first one, but he kept the ball alive.
Yes. Yeah, no.
And it's a lot like the goal that he conceded against Man City. It's a strange thing, because what you want to do is get rid of the ball so there's no second or third nibble at it. But it does seem to happen fairly often with him that it gets saved up in the air or straight out into the middle of the box. And it leaves you, so you're almost asking for it. You don't always get such a good response. I mean, Naki Wells reacted really well and got a really good header on it. So we were sort of unfortunate in that way. But it was just a shame to go from such a convincing, comfortable performance to being back in the position of, oh, great, here we go. It's going to be 15 minutes of clinging on and biting our nails. We brought on Odebajo and little Joey Belopesi for Murphy and Luongo. That was about 76th minute. Atty came on with 10 minutes left to play. And then we had 6 minutes added on. And it just felt like I was really starting to worry something that was going to happen positively for them, because they were getting some joy from going long. The ball was dropping in and in our box and around our box. They had 2 or 3 good chances in a row.
Yes.
At one point, Patterson sort of had an effort, and there was another follow-up effort.
Who was the player who scuffed one wide for them?
I think that might have been Patterson.
Right, because that was...
Or it was a follow-up to Patterson's shot. I don't know whether it was Patterson the second time.
That was very much felt like the chance for them.
Yes.
I thought it was funny that, the one commentator had on my, the footage where no one can really give an arse about, to the point where, like, let's just bring in the Sky footage. Why do we have to have someone? Why do we have to be paying somebody to be, so dispassionate about what's going on? He said, just the wrong side of the post. I'm like, that's actually quite a fair distance wide of the post.
Yeah.
It wasn't close enough. It was a bad miss, though. I will say that. Like, I mean, that was probably the chance for Bristol City. But it felt like we were maybe kind of meandering towards, a late equaliser, another missed, 2 points drop, another missed opportunity, especially after that Wickham miss as well.
And the very last sort of hurrah of the match was Patterson's dive as he turned and ran out of options or ideas. He just threw himself on the floor. Didn't get a yellow. Don't know why. And then De Cruz went on his break where he teased Baker inside, outside, didn't know where he was going, and then thumped it sort of straight down the keeper's throat. But it was a decent effort. And that was all she wrote.
Yeah. Only a bit of time for Nuyu to waste a bit of time in the corner and blast a ball off a few Bristol City players. Also, one of the things from the first half, which I absolutely adored. I love that early, the large swing across. Remember Burner running on and whacking one into whose head was it? He whacked it into. It was Weimann, wasn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely thumped one against Weimann. I'm surprised he didn't give the guy a concussion. It was pretty. Put his large Dirk technique foot through it. It's Weimann's head. That was a lot of fun.
But a pretty comfortable win, really, all told.
I think so. The interesting thing was, some people, after watching the game and just coming on and the call with you today for this, was kind of drinking in some of the social media, and it's called a superb win. I think it's a superb win for just any win. At this stage of the career and knowing our situation, it has to be hailed as such. But the interesting thing was, I thought it was a lesser performance than against Forest.
Possibly. I think we were more dangerous. I think we made more chances, and I think we could have made even more. Like, if we needed to, we seemed to be sort of carving them up a bit easier. But I know what you mean. I think in some ways it wasn't as good of a performance as Forest. But I think what's nice to see is the formation seems to be working pretty well. I think particularly defensively, for the first time in a long time, we look fairly comfortable with what we're trying to do there, which probably wouldn't have been able to say any time since Christmas, really. I think defensively we've been all over the shop. And I think the other thing that's nice is I really do feel like Wickham he's growing into this role. I think a few people have uncharitably sort of said, well, everybody's starting from scratch, like fitness-wise. So the fact he's so far off, he was so far off before, is not holding him back. So because everybody's starting from the same base, his natural quality is getting more of a chance to shine. But I just thought he got tired. I think he needed to be subbed when he came off, but other than that, he held the ball up really well. He was unlucky not to get a couple more chances, because the point where he kind of went shoulder to shoulder with Williams and won that battle, I don't know why the ref blew up. It certainly wasn't a foul. And that he could have easily played Harris in for a one-on-one if that had been allowed to carry on. I think that's been really pleasing to see him. He stepped up. We need him. We're going to need him between now and the end of the season. And it feels like he's he's sort of manning up and doing the role that we need of him, which is good to see. I'm slightly worried about Werner's situation. I hope he's not injured long term.
Well, the Monk was saying it was just a dead leg.
Okay,
he said.
But then that can be. I remember Richard Wood being off for 4 weeks with a dead leg back in the day.
Well, I mean, who knows? This World of Football Manager, we could all stub our toe and be out of action for 5 days.
So we were exchanging texts yesterday, looking at the results coming in, and basically very strongly in agreement that it was a pretty terrible day for us yesterday. By and large, the group of teams circling the drain at the bottom of the league has expanded. But with our win and Forest going and beating Huddersfield, it actually puts quite a different pull on things, doesn't it, I think?
It does.
10 points from the drop zone. We're in a modicum of form, I guess. We've got a tough week coming. But it's so hard with the EFL. For me now, I just want to know what the damage is so that we can react properly. Because if it's one of the insane things, then there's nothing we can do about it, and it doesn't even matter what the players do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If it's 20 points, then why have shouldn't have bothered paying anybody this season? We could have just forfeited every game.
I know. Well, that's the awful thing of thinking about it, right? And that's any points deduction, I think, screws us. I think even if it's 9 points, that takes us down to 43.
It puts us right in it, but we would be one of the better teams in it, I think.
We would, but I feel like there's so many kind of the nature of the championship. There's so many unexpected results right now.
Well, there are.
So, yeah, I don't know.
I don't think a 3-point or a 6-point, I think, deduction.
But I don't think that's one of the...
Well, everything
seems to be 9, 12, and 21.
Nobody knows. Literally everything is on the table.
Nobody knows. But that was the thing I was saying about the case. I'm like, we must have a better defence. We must have a better defence than Chansiri adamantly shaking his head. It feels that way. It feels like we're doing it. I don't know, that there seems to be a sense of, I don't know, but it's also like the nature of, we remembered when there was a statement from the club about this, and we seem to have carried over some of the emotion of Chansiri into that, while we looked across at Derby and they seemingly had a very calm, collected and professional kind of curt response. That was very tight as a diamond. I don't know. It's all a bit difficult.
It is difficult. The thing is, we've also in this saga, we've had the three sort of people that individually were also charged have their charges dropped. So
yes,
you coming at this from another angle, you could go, well, that seems pretty positive. So if they thought that these three and the club were guilty of something, and there wasn't enough to make anything stick against these three, then why is it suddenly so much better if it's the club? I don't know. We just need to stick to it. But I think in terms of let's take a positive spin on it. What was looking like a bad weekend for us in terms of those results has actually looks pretty good now on the other side of Sunday.
But also that's purely for the fact, and again, we can all do the same thing. I imagine football players and managers probably do a little bit the same, even though they're a bit more professional than us, which is a good job because it's what they do for a living, and they're the ones who pay big bucks to do such a thing. But effectively, it's always in our hands, right? The best results are the ones we do ourselves.
Yes, and that's the thing with everything else that's going on the week with the contracts and things like that. It just feels like this is a big win to get, and I think you could feel the relief. I think the Gary Monk that is interviewed post-match today is a different guy than we've seen for a few months. It feels like an addition to the positivity we've had in the week. I just think he's kind of, in a way, he's won some of his battles internally at the training ground. And that has strengthened his arm. And hopefully, if he can start getting results to back that up as well, it's going to be, as a player, you're going to be the daft one to not buy into this and be part of this.
Yes. Yeah. I hope as well that is effectively the negative side of that is going to affect that we've now got a real wafer-thin squad.
Yes.
We're leading to believe that all of the loan players have been extended with the exception of David Bates, who's going to chuff off back to Hamburg. And I'm really hoping that that's a positive that kind of compensates for the fact that we don't have many options, really. No. And we're going to a very thick and fast period. This is the only week. This is a slow kind of dipping your toe back into the fixtures.
Yeah, it gets crazy now, doesn't it?
It's midweek Saturday.
Yeah.
The last 7 games to the point where we finish on a midweek, which is bizarre.
Do we want to do player ratings?
I think we do player ratings. I think we can kind of hover through them fairly quickly. Okay. Mind you, I usually say that, and then it usually takes like 20 minutes. Joe Waldsmith, top 40 Joe, I've gone for a 7 for him. I thought largely he did pretty well. I see your kind of criticism regarding the whole goal that he conceded, but I thought it was a decent performance.
I agree, and I think that the save it's sort of 1 for 1 because the Baker save was incredible in the first half.
The save at 0-0 was pretty.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if we'd conceded then, that would have been awful for the rest of the game. So that was the more important one to save out of the two. If you're going to concede one, it's better to concede a 2-0 up.
Yes.
So I've got no qualms. I also thought his kicking was pretty good today, by and large.
Yes, I would agree.
Pretty consistent and enough consistency for us to build around it. So no, I'm happy with that praise for top 40 Joe.
Palmer, I've gone for a 7. He's looking great, as we said. He's really growing into this role. I'm glad we've got a player with as much versatility. I think previously we would kind of say prior to the season we weren't big fans of. We were not big fans of Liam Palmer's versatility. It's kind of a bit like, he's a little bit unconvincing here. He's a little bit unconvincing there. Here unconvincing, there unconvincing, everywhere unconvincing. Old Liam Palmer had a stint. Yeah. But no, he's just doing so well, and he's growing into that role. And again, I've gone for a 7. Again, he's the strongest of those defensive centre backs.
I wonder if part of him is just thinking, why is it taken to like my 28th or 29th year to discover what I've been all my life? It's the right side of a 3-man at the back. I could have been a contender. It just feels like it suits him so much, the role he's being asked to play. I think 7, maybe 7.5. I think that block was maybe worth another little half for me.
Yes, I think we'll do that. That's, I think, very good. Yes, let's give him 7.5.
Dominic Iorfa.
So I've gone for a 6.5 for Iorfa. As you said, he didn't get his Iorfa gadget legs. Didn't go gadget legs a great deal, but
legs.
It's still Iorfa. I'm still very glad that he's in the centre pairing, even though I think some of these performances haven't been quite as fantastic as previously.
He brings so much to it. It's just different. It's different bits of himself he's bringing to it. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it's fine.
Yeah. And I would also.
I suppose it's like having, I don't know, I can't think of a band where this is the case, but like having a tremendous guitarist playing bass for you or something. Do you know what I mean? Like they're great. They can keep the rhythm. They can do all the licks and stuff. But if you handed them the lead guitar, they'd be that much better. But it's fine. Anyway, so Julian Byrne, and we should probably Fox at the same time because they sort of did half and half.
Yeah, I think both of them could look to be a 6.5 each. I think I've kind of gone with both of them. Byrne's pretty solid. He's doing okay. Maybe not quite as good as he's been previously, but I know there's other games for Byrne.
I think the beauty of this 3 is we were starting to see the downsides of Byrne, which are essentially anytime he's asked to run, it looks like he has messed his trousers. And if he has to turn around before he runs, the effect is doubled. So he's allowed to go and do the big man defensive duties, but if he fails at any stage, we've got Iorfa's pace in behind, and we've got Liam Palmer to kind of sweep up as well. It just seems to, I don't know, it seems to work so well for all of them. And I think in particular, where Byrne has got to in his Wednesday career, it's kind of it's good for him to have a backup, I think, at the moment.
Very much so.
Yeah. So then we've got the wing backs.
Well, let's just say the adventures of Fox Morgan.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Fox Morgan.
The hairy Fox Morgan.
The hairy Fox Morgan, 6.5 as well. But just to say, I really hope it isn't the case. But farewell, Fox Morgan. It's a bit of a season finale cliffhanger. Who knows if it might get picked up to another network. I guess.
Yes. I'd like to. It would be nice to hear that he's decided to play the last few games for us, especially if we've got questions over Burner. I don't. Yeah, bit disappointed in that bit of him. Just on like a kind of personality note, he seems like the sort of guy that would do it. It's less understandable than Fletcher's position, I think. Anyway, let's not linger. Jacob Murphy.
I've gone for. I thought he was a 6.5. I thought he was a stronger of the two. I think, as we said previously, some good crosses. I did like that kind of very deep kind of cross, which Harris won the corner off.
Yes.
Which was scored from. It's funny because another commentator on my feed was saying, "Oh, well, he's overhit that one." And I'm like, actually, that was a decent.
Yeah.
That was a lovely kind of deep curving cross, and a lot for someone to do, but the right idea. Put it into a good space for someone arriving late on the wing, which was Harris. It was, maybe a little bit more getting like some of it was a mid-period Harris performance in that it was maybe better than the early Murphy, but not as good as late Murphy.
Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah. I get that. I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
He did get the assist for the first goal. I don't know whether that gives him a little glimmer extra.
That's interesting. Do you want to nudge him to a 7?
I'm tempted. Feeling generous today. Do we want to do the other wing back, or do we want to do the midfield? You can take it either way.
Let's go midfield. Let's go across the middle.
Cool. I'm gonna go. Let's go Kieran Lee first and foremost.
Kieran Lee was a 6.5. I thought he was okay. Didn't embarrass himself. I'm glad we're getting some amount of mileage out of Kieran Lee. It's the fact we've got anything out of Kieran Lee following, a big patch of injury. It's been nice. I feel grateful. Yeah. I get up every morning and I'm grateful that Kieran Lee's not embarrassing himself at Sheffield Wednesday. And
hey, when I wake up, I thank the Lord that Kieran Lee's not embarrassing himself. Do you remember that song?
No, I don't. I was actually thinking about Say a Little Prayer for You myself.
Catatonia on their first album it might not have been their first album, their breakthrough album, I should say. I might be speaking out of turn saying it's their first album.
Was that International Velvet?
Yes, but they had a song that was Every Day When I Wake Up, I Thank the Lord I'm Welsh.
Richard Kerris Miller.
Right. That's a meander we need to take. I thought Kieran Lee was good. I suspect now, as we start to rattle through games, is where Kieran Lee will start to struggle again, because I think that's sort of what happened in the season when he was a week or two in between and he could look nice and fresh.
That might also give us a nice opportunity for Alex Hunt to make a starting berth. I know there was talk prior to this game about, is it Alex Hunt's day?
It's a bit yes. I mean, that's the slight disappointment is we didn't get to see him at all today.
Yeah, but I think maybe going with Lee for the right time. Yeah. Trying to use the experience as much as we can, and we have. We're definitely going to have opportunities for Alex Hunt. There's definitely going to be a few injury niggles, and it's probably going to be Kieran Lee, the man who's going to pick up something. I really hope, touch wood, is anything made of wood around here? I'm touching my head as we go. Nothing happens to Action Mass. We really need Action Mass for at least 90% that's running.
He's a big difference maker, isn't he? Should we come to him next?
We should. Action Mass. I'm going to go for a 7.5 for Luongo because he did really well and he scored that goal. What a great ball in as well that Wickham scuffed and Wickham spurned.
Yes. Well, that was a brilliant vision to see that the space was there. Great legs to get on the end of it because it was always getting away from him. And then to pull not just any old ball out, it was a perfect cross after that, our cut back. It's a real shame that didn't result in a goal. His work and ball deserved a goal, definitely. What a treat. Barry Bannon.
I've gone for an 8 for Bannon today.
Wow.
I'm going to say...
He did get man of the match again on Sky. Almost every game we have, Barry Bannon gets man of the match.
Well, actually, I think I actually put him as 7.5, but I bumped Luongo up to a 7.5. Okay. So I think Bannon was my man of the match.
Ooh,
and I think he was... I think more often than not, he was positive. I think more often it was very positive. Maybe I'm also compensating for giving him a low mark against Forest. But I think there was enough really, really good moments from Bannon to to make the difference today.
I don't think he had a bad game at all. I just thought first half he let them get at him a little bit, and it put us under more pressure than we needed to be. Second half was better because he sat deeper and had more room. We made it less worthwhile for them to press him, basically, and shifted the emphasis of the play to other players, which gave him the room to actually have weirdly more of an influence. So I love Bannon. He had a really good performance. He nearly always has really good performances. It's just that thing, you almost get blasé about how special he is, because as I say, almost every time we're on Sky, if we're on Sky and win, Barry Bannon gets man of the match. If we're on Sky and draw, generally Barry Bannon gets man of the match. So he's incredible.
Sure. And I mean, if we go down, worst comes to worst, we know that he's done so much work to have Lee Johnson admire him long and hard, almost in a stalkerish way. And we could probably get a few million for Bannon from Bristol City, because Lee Johnson absolutely creams himself every time, every time Bannon's anywhere near him.
He does. So that brings us to the other flank, Calvin Kadeem Harris.
I've gone for a 6. I don't know. There's a lot of, I feel like Kadeem Harris has been asked to do a job. I think he's doing it quite well, but it's disappointing that there's no attacking juice.
There was one decent cross where Hunt kind of sold himself on Harris sort of pretended like he was going to cut back onto his right, and Harris just pushed him onto his left, and there was a decent cross. I think Wickham maybe was the man under it, but other than that, he didn't have huge amounts to do. But I do think for both of them, the bit that they are not supposed to be good at, they are absolutely nailing by and large at the moment. The defensive side of being a wing back, I think they're both pulling off with relative ease, it looks like. But slightly disappointing on his output going forward.
So another episode title would be Calvin Harris pulling off.
Jordan Rhodes.
Rhodes is 6, as his number applies. He was okay.
He's doing a thing, isn't he?
He certainly is. I think if we've all said, anyone can conclude Jordan Rhodes is doing a thing.
Do you know what I mean? I just need to keep telling myself that he's doing a thing. He's playing a role. He is, in the Ford factory production line of middling Sheffield Wednesday football, he's the guy that makes sure all the bolts are facing up the right way before they get handed to the person that actually puts the bolts into the car. It's a minor job, but it's an important job. If nobody does that job, then things start falling apart. He's stretching the play. It makes me a bit sad to watch how desperately poor he is at being an athlete or a footballer at this point in time. But he's a body and he's playing a role. So there you go. I think 6 is fine. On an existential level.
If there was a James Bond theme about him, Rich, would you say some people do it better?
Not everybody can be special. So some people are right there in the middle.
Some people do it somewhat better than you do.
But others could do it worse. Average. Technically, others may do it worse. Yes.
Good stuff.
Connor Wickham.
Oh, wigwam bam.
2 and 2.
2 and 2. I think it's going to be 7.5.
Yeah.
I was going to say 7. That just feels harsh. It's just.
If he nailed that one, he gets an 8. He gets man of the match. But
he gets MOTM. I know. Gets all the plaudits plus a brace. We'll give him 2/3 of the match ball. No, it's great to see him it's nice to have a striker that's coming into this, hitting some form, doing a job, and someone that we need, and someone's doing everything that we need him to do. It's pretty great.
It's nice. I think what you just get those little touches. We're still scratching the surface of just how good he can be. How much of that is left, I don't know. But it's it's just his vision and the fact he seems to buy time for himself. It's those little touches of quality that are nice to see, and I hope he can continue to build on. He almost played in a really beautiful ball for Odebajo, just sort of without looking, kind of flicking it round the corner for him. And by flicking it around the corner, it was like, all the way crossfield ball, but it went a bit too close to the goalie. But that sort of thing where it's like he knows what's going on around him. He's got enough of a picture that he can act on without taking the time to look around or look up. It was a nice thing to see. Out of the other subs, is anybody else worth? So De Cruz got half an hour, which seems longer than I can remember him being on for, but
that's very true. Yeah, that is something. De Cruz was quite good, wasn't he? I've already given him a 6.5.
I think he did the same sort of thing as Jordan Rhodes, but he's quicker. But it's the same sort of job, really, is play on the last defender so that they can't... Effectively, what you want to do as Bristol City in a game where you're 2-0 down or even one goal behind as the game comes to the end, you want to keep committing men forward. You want everybody in our half, and having somebody with his pace makes that much harder to do, because you need to have probably 2 or 3 men just to mark De Cruz. It's a great thing to have, and he filled the role really well, I thought. And yeah, decent effort when he was actually set free 1-on-1. There was a pretty decent effort. Good save from the goalie. Odebajo, I don't really remember him doing very much.
No, I'd probably give him a 6. I think he had 1-2 moments where I felt a bit concerned.
Joey P,
I don't remember him being on the pitch that much. So there's a 6. There's another 6.
Atty did some holding it in the corner.
Yeah, so maybe I'll be generous, give him a 6.5.
Perfect.
There we go.
Jobs are good. Anything else worth noting or talking about?
No, I think that covers it. I think that is 6 points, a league double against Bristol City.
Yeah, nice place to be.
I guess the interesting thing I wanted to say was looking forward. So midweek we're at Hillsborough to play West Bromwich, yeah. West Bromwich Albion, who are in pretty awful form, I want to say.
Yes, first is escaping them, isn't it? Unfortunately, that's going to be Dirty Leeds. I think, just by the way they've come back. But they're probably fairly comfortably... I don't know, Brentford could catch them. Yeah, it's tricky sort of times. Their terrible form, just so you know, Luke, is 2 wins, 2 losses and 2 draws.
Well, I think the last 5, it's 1 out of 5, isn't it, for West Brom?
Yes, it's 1 out of 5, yeah.
I mean, they haven't won a game since February, late February, I think it is. But obviously that has difference, in this environment, has a much different kind of capability, and looks a lot different, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm also wondering about, we do talk previously about the fact that Monk seems to be someone who really enjoys having that time to to look and to prepare, against teams. So it's going to be interesting seeing how we're doing coming into these games thick and fast. It's
but unless Bristol and Nottingham Forest are hugely similar, I don't think we did anything particularly different today to what we did against Forest. So maybe we are having a bit more. Maybe we've taken the approach with these games coming so thick and fast that we simply can't do a game plan based on what every team does and trying to play on their weaknesses. And we are settling on a system that works for us. And then I'm sure there'll be tweaks and things like that. There'll be different ways that you mark players or people that you watch out for at set pieces. But it will be tinkering with the edges of this main plan being the same, though. That would be a sensible way to approach it. And maybe that feels like it. I mean, I don't know how many times we've played the same starting lineup 2 games running under Monk. But we've done that in this period. There's not a huge amount of options, as we've touched on. So maybe we've just got to go with this is what works for the players we have. And yeah, there might be the odd little bit of change. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting journey. But by the time we talk again, we will have had 2 games under our belt. West Brom at home and Swansea away. Well, who knows? Do you have any expectations? What to think of those 2 games? What we might be sat with point-wise at the other side?
So away at Swansea and home to West Brom. Yeah. I'm feeling confident about the West Brom game, just because I don't think they're in particularly good shape. I think there might be a surprise win for Wednesday. Don't have much hope for Swansea. I'm wondering if we'll get 3 points. I think there'll be a win and a loss.
Swansea are okay, yeah. Swansea have got the same record as West Brom, just in a different order in the last 5 games.
Right.
2 losses, 2 draws, and a win. But they've won and lost since we came back.
Since the restart. So
yeah, they lost Woodgate his job with a 3-0 win there, and then they lost to Luton, who don't ever score.
Yes, yeah, 3 huge points to Luton. It's really weird to see what's going to happen. Everything's just very, very strange right now.
Yeah, these teams who almost have a shout of the playoffs but don't really.
Yes.
But Bristol City today were being talked of as playoff contenders. And to me, there's a very slight chance of them getting anywhere near it. There's too many teams and not enough points to play for, I think. Because after our win against Bristol City, we're only 3 points off Bristol City. So I don't think we're 3 points off challenging.
No.
But Swansea are only 1 point off Bristol City. So they've got a theoretical dog in the race of promotion. But whether they believe that remains to be seen, really. But I sort of feel we might be, in some of these cases, playing teams at the right time. Because if you're starting to feel that actually you're not going to get that playoff berth, you're starting to lose that bit of faith and that drive for what you're playing for, that's when you do get some of those strange results, I think. The end of the season is bizarre in its own way, always. And now it's even weirder because of all the corona fun. Okay, well, yeah, I just have no idea what to expect now. The championship is famously hard to predict, but the current situation is just making it very, very risky to stick your neck out at all. But I'm hopeful we might be able to get 4 points out of the 2 games, possibly. I don't know how they'll come. But there we go. Right, I'll say cheerio, Luke. Wish you well.
Yes, you too.
And we'll speak to you next week, folks.
Yep.
Look after yourselves. If you must go to the beach, pick up your litter. It's just public service announcements at the end of the podcast. That's what we do. Right. Cheerio.
See you, Rich. Have a good one.
Bye.